My stepdaughter uninvited me from the wedding I was paying for, so I uninvited them from my life. I raised my stepdaughter Electra like she was my own blood for 12 years, until her real dad showed up at her sweet 16 with empty pockets and a winning smile that apparently erased everything I'd ever done for her. When we threw Electra's 17th birthday at the Ritz-Carlton ballroom I'd booked 6 months in advance, her bio dad Reed crashed the party halfway through. Electra actually grabbed the microphone to thank her amazing father for making this all possible, while I stood there holding the $40,000 receipt. My wife Cersei just squeezed my arm and whispered that I shouldn't make it about me. Then Electra applied exclusively to out-of-state private schools because she knew I'd been saving since she was 6. When she got into Northwestern, I wrote the $70,000 deposit check and helped her move into the dorms I was paying for. But at her graduation party, she announced that her real dad was helping with college and made him stand for applause, then later admitted he hadn't paid a cent, but she wanted him to feel included. Cersei told me I was being petty for caring about credit. One day, Electra called me crying about her engagement, and I felt genuine joy. That was finally something we could celebrate together. I immediately offered to pay for her dream wedding, the full $80,000 package at the vineyard she'd been pinning on Pinterest for years. She hugged me and called me dad for the first time in 2 years. But 2 weeks before the wedding, she asked me to sit down at the kitchen table and explained that her real dad felt uncomfortable with 2 fathers at the wedding, so I needed to understand why I couldn't attend. My chest physically hurt as she explained this like a business transaction, while my wife stood behind her nodding. I called Cersei later that night, hoping for some support, and she told me to know my place, because I was never really Electra's father anyway. I hung up the phone and felt something inside me break completely. I spent the next 3 days unable to eat while wedding preparations continued around me like I was a ghost in my own home. Cersei bustled past me with fabric samples, Electra FaceTimed Reed about father-daughter dance songs, and vendors called my phone for final payments on an event I wasn't allowed to attend. My business partner asked if I was taking time off for the wedding, and I had to lie. I sat in my study staring at the wedding contracts I'd signed, and realized I'd just been an ATM wearing a dad costume for over a decade. Then I started thinking and realized that every account, every asset, every credit card was solely in my name because she'd been too busy to deal with finances for 15 years. The solution became crystal clear. Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp, I called American Express and canceled every card, then watched the first decline notification pop up on my banking app within minutes. I'd frozen all pending vendor payments and smiled as I imagined the venue manager's face. At 10, while Cersei was at that same venue for a final walkthrough, I had a locksmith change every lock and dumped her jewelry box into a garbage bag with her other belongings. Electra's first confused text arrived at 10:30. Dad, the florist says my card was declined, and I actually laughed out loud. Then came Cersei screaming into my voicemail about the venue demanding immediate payment, or they'd give the date to another couple. I threw their family photos into boxes while my phone buzzed with increasing panic. Then their texts turned desperate. The caterer is suing us. The venue wants $60,000 today, or they're calling the police for fraud. An hour later, Cersei came back to yell at my face and discovered the locks had been changed. She pounded on the door screaming about her house until neighbors threatened to call cops. By evening, Electra was begging Reed for help and learning he was between jobs right now. Classic. The next day, a process server delivered divorce papers to Cersei at her sister's house with every line of the prenup highlighted in yellow. 30 minutes later, my phone exploded with Cersei realizing she'd get nothing, not even alimony, screaming about how I'd planned this and ruined her baby's life. Electra's final desperate voicemail had her saying, "You can come to the wedding. You can walk me down the aisle. You're my dad. Please, the whole family is calling asking what happened. I'm so embarrassed. Please, daddy." I sat in my leather chair, bourbon replacing tea, watching the messages pile up like a beautiful disaster, and I never responded to a single one. The wedding was canceled since no one could afford the venue without me, and despite her countless pleadings, I divorced Cersei and left her in the dust.